Hello, hello, and welcome. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having fun. Friday, Q&A day. Gonna have some fun. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful week. What's going on? How can I help you? We're here to answer some questions. All that good stuff. Hello, hello, and welcome. Hope you're doing well. Let's chat. What kind of questions you got today? What is your take on a pre-med doing a gap year master's program? Any discussion about gap year has to start with, I think, why? Why are you thinking about taking a gap year? Why are you thinking about doing a master's program? Why are you insert whatever it is you're thinking about doing? If you need to do a master's program because you need to improve your GPA, awesome. Go do that. I think that's where the question has to start from, is that. Because if it doesn't start from there, then what are we talking about? If you have an extra $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and you want to go waste it on a master's program, even though you have a 4.0 GPA, then I don't know what are we talking about? So that's always the first question is why. So I would throw that back to you, is why are you thinking about doing that master's program? Am I on a walking pad? I'm on a treadmill. Walking away. How many steps a day do you do? I try to get my 10,000 steps. Let's see. I can let's see what the average has been for this month. Actually, I don't know if I can see my average on. I have to do it through the phone, which I can't use my phone right now because I'm streaming. What was my undergraduate GPA? What does it matter? Let me ask you that. My undergraduate GPA was good. It was 3.73, I think. I don't understand this fascination with asking other people what their stats are. But yeah, 3.73. I'm in school for OT, wondering your thoughts on if you should work in a similar field while in school, or if it's okay to do something different. You're in school for OT, like you're pre-OT? Is that the question? If you're pre-OT, do you need to work as an OT or something similar? I would do something. So the answer is no, you don't have to work in a similar field. But if it's similar to being a pre-med and your goal is to show why you want to be an OT, I would assume you want to be around patients. So just keep going there. Good morning. My cumulative GPA is 2.728. My science GPA is around a 3.3. I know I need to raise it more. I'm not sure if I should do a post-bac or do it yourself post-bac or a master's of science. There really is no perfect answer to exactly which one you should do. Because at the end of the day, there are many ways to figure that out and to improve GPA. Now, I will say anecdotally, we have seen and heard that medical schools prefer undergraduate level classes, but a lot of students do master's level classes because that's what they can get loans for. Now with the new federal student loan caps, that may make a huge difference. So yeah, Do what works for your budget. Do what works for your schedule. Everything else. Just use your essay edits with Dina. I'm applying DO currently. Do schools care how long you take to finish secondaries? They can. And so the thing to remember is that they send out secondaries. They can track how long it takes for you to turn it around. And they can potentially use that as an indicator of your interest in that school. Sorry, let me take a drink. Remember that medical schools are trying to do one thing and one thing only. They're trying to fill their seats. And you may think, oh, that's easy. They get 8,000 applications for 100 seats. Yeah, I wonder that too. Like, how hard is this? But they are also trying to weigh in their community, their class, their culture, all of that stuff for who they're looking for. If they're trying to fill 100 seats, maybe they do 600 interviews. And so if they only have 600 interviews, and let's use the 8,000 applications, 600 interviews, 8,000 applications, how do they figure out who to interview? If secondary turnaround time is a potential indicator for who is more likely to come to their school, yeah, I'm going to use that as a data point. And if I have data that says students who turn around secondaries within 1 to 2 weeks, we have seen historically that those are the students that seem like they want to come to our school and accept our acceptance and actually matriculate, versus the students that turn around secondaries in 3 to 4 weeks, we find that they actually don't matriculate even when offered an acceptance. That's a data point. So yeah, I would look at that. MCAT score is 503. This is the first time I took it. My science GPA is a 3.7. Should I retake the MCAT? Do I qualify for any MD programs with a 503? So that's not the right question to ask. Do I qualify for any MD programs with a 503? There's no qualified, not qualified number that we can say, which is why I hate the whole argument of like, oh, your MCAT score is good enough for an MD, not good enough for a DO, good enough for a DO, not good enough for an MD. Switch those. I hate that argument, because there are students getting into MD schools. All of you like salivate over like, oh, I got to go MD, not DO. Like, you're a doctor at the end of the day. Who cares? What's up, Jeff? A higher MCAT score always helps. I will answer it in that way. There are plenty of students getting into MD programs with 503s. Now, who are those students? Why are they getting in? What else is on their application? Those are all very important questions. It's not just the stats. So, when should we send a letter of interest? I got waitlisted by school yesterday. Should I include it in the letter? I am not a fan of letters of interest. I'm not a fan of letters of interest. Let me lay out what I think the plan is. You apply to medical school, submit your primary application, submit your secondary applications. That is your letter of interest. Now you get an interview. You're waiting for an interview. Maybe you get waitlisted post-interview. Now you send a letter of intent if that is the school that you want to go to, based on all of the other schools that you've applied to and whatever, right? That's your number one choice. If they accept you, you will go. Please do that. Too many students are sending letters of intent to everyone, and you're going to ruin the letter of intent game. The letter of intent says, hey, I want to come to your school if you accept me. Post-interview, pre-interview waitlists, pre-interview silence, post-interview silence. An update letter can potentially work well if the school accepts an update letter. Again, it's not a letter of interest, it's an update letter. Here's what I've been working on. Here's maybe what was weak in my application when I submitted, but but here's what I've been working on to fix those things. So that's my take. If you want to improve your, where'd it go? Anyway, I find it funny that I came across this live after considering HPSP. It's a sign. It's a sign. Can ODs still be surgeons? No. I don't consider them. I know optometrists are pushing for more stuff, but no, I don't consider OD surgeons. Am I on a treadmill? I am. Dr. Ray, I'm so lost. I have a few MD secondaries left and have to submit my DO. Is it really late? I would keep moving, keep going. How important is a pre-med archetype? As in all ECs match up with each other? This, to me, I love this question because I could rant about this for an hour. I find it hilarious that the advice out there is everything has to follow a theme, everything has to tie together, everything has to make sure you check off all the boxes for the core competencies, everything has to just work seamlessly together and make it so you have a pre-med archetype. I've never heard that before. A pre-med archetype. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. Stop it. Stop it. Your goal when applying to medical school, scratch that. Your goal when being a pre-med student is to explore life. Explore medicine. Yeah. Do I really want to be a physician? Do I really want to take care of patients? You're exploring medicine as a pre-med student. Guess what else you're doing? You're exploring who you are as a person away from home, your personalities, your interests, your passions, your other adult things, right? You're figuring out who you are as a person. That means exploring life outside of medicine too. That also means you're away from home and all that stuff. And oh, by the way, you have to pay bills. And so you may have a job that has nothing to do with medicine. And guess what? That's okay. That's okay. Your life does not have to revolve around medicine. And in fact, I would say if your life revolves around medicine, that is not a sustainable life. And that is not what you have to do to get into medical school. I tell this story all the time, but I tell it all the time because it is important to reiterate, and it comes up all the time. I was talking with a friend. He's the dean of admissions at a school in Florida. We were chatting after tabling at a conference, and he goes, I'm really frustrated with students. They come up to me and they say, what are you looking for? What is your school looking for? Tell me what I need to do to get in. Tell me who I should be to get in. And he's like, it's frustrating because that is not how this process works. That's not how we run our admissions office. And yet that's an N of one, right? That's one school. But I talk to deans and directors of admissions across the country, and it's a very similar story almost everywhere. The admission committee's job is to evaluate who you are and make a decision based on who you are and the story that you put forth in your application. It's your job as a pre-med student to not try to be someone for the medical school. And I think that's a very important distinction. They're trying to figure out who you are. Your job is not to figure out who they want. Your job is to be you. And so when we talk about the pre-med archetype is a human being exploring life and everything that life has to offer. And yes, also exploring medicine, because you are saying, hey, I think I'm interested in this as a career. I think I'm crazy enough to want to go to medical school and do residency and do all of this stuff. I think I want to do that. Maybe I should go put myself around some patients and see if I like taking care of people. Maybe I should go shadow and see what this life is like, all about being a physician. And oh, by the way, I really love sports. I'm going to go play some intramural basketball or football or soccer or lacrosse or field hockey, whatever that might be. You need to stop worrying about what the med schools want and start thinking about who you are and what you want. That's the difference. So no, you're easy. You don't have to match up with each other. Off topic, is there a brand of home treadmill you recommend? I'm not the right person to ask because I'm a treadmill snob. So I was an exercise physiology major in college. I was a personal trainer for many years before med school, during med school. And so I'm a treadmill snob for commercial treadmills. And so the home treadmills just don't, like, if you were to walk 10,000, there are some days I'll walk 30,000 steps on this thing. And that's a ton. It's not all the time, but there are some days. A lot of days I'll walk 15, 16,000 steps. A home like walking pad won't stand up to that. I have a walking pad inside. At about 45 minutes, the motor starts. You can start smelling it. You're like, oh, that's gross. I need to turn it off for a little bit. So I think this is a Precore. I don't even know. What is it? I think it's a Precore. Yeah, it's a Precore. I'm moving all my cameras around. It's a commercial treadmill that I buy it refurbished. So it was at a gym. The way that it normally works is the gym leases them, and then they go somewhere else after that. So yeah, good talk. All right. Do interviews truly tend to slow down after Thanksgiving? I've heard debate. Yeah, I mean, they're starting to slow down now, but they're still coming, but they're slowing down. Both things can be true. Is it true that 2/3 of interviews have gone out? I wouldn't say 2/3. I think we're in the early middle part. We were talking about that the other day. My team agrees. We're like in the early middle parts of this process. Does going to a lower ranked med school decrease your chance to get into a competitive residency? So let's air quote lower ranked. They quoted. What the heck does that mean? What does a lower ranked med school mean? If you are on these lives with me often, you've heard my U.S. News and World Reports rant before. The rankings that everyone refers to is U.S. News and World Reports. U.S. News and World Reports. That is a list created by a company to sell magazines. The methodology is public. You can go look at it. In fact, let's bring it up now. U.S. News, World Reports, med school ranking methodology. All right. How the best med schools were calculated. Again, the best according to U.S. News and World Reports. All right. During the fall of 2024 and early 2025, U.S. News surveyed 197 medical and osteopathic schools fully accredited by LCME or COCA, the osteopathic accreditation body. And sometimes third-party statistics. Why sometimes third-party statistics? Because there are schools that aren't participating with U.S. News and World Reports anymore. We calculate the tiers and the primary care rankings, as well as to populate med school profiles, blah, blah, blah. So if you don't know, a couple of years ago, there was a mass exodus of medical schools participating in the U.S. News and World Reports rankings, meaning they stopped giving their data to U.S. News and World Reports. And instead of ranking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, U.S. News and World Reports changed to tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, which to me is just as bad. It's just as bad. Because now we're like, oh, I'm going to a high tier, low tier, mid tier, whatever. Indicators for best medical schools, right? Again, here's the methodology. Research. This is for research schools. Research activity is used in the research formula only. Okay, great. For the second year in a row, the aggregate weight of the research ranking factors is 60% of the overall score. So if your school does a ton of research, it's going to get a lot of points in this ranking system because it's weighted pretty heavily at 60%. Blah, blah, blah. They got some fancy math numbers in there. Total dollar amount of federal grants and contracts. So for research schools, they're using total dollar amount of federal grants and contracts, state and local grants and contracts, and private sector non-government funded contracts. Does the amount of money that a school gets through federal grants and contracts affect your education? No, it doesn't. At all. It's just saying, hey, that school gets a lot of money to do research. Sweet. It must be a good school. Let me go down to primary care. Medical school graduates practicing in primary care subspecialties. The indicator measures the proportion of medical schools 2016 to 2018 graduates who are practicing in a primary care specialty in family medicine, general internal medicine, general pediatrics, geriatrics, general practice, or internal medicine pediatrics as of 2024. So it's looking backward at the graduates and saying, hey, these people are probably out of training now. Who's doing primary care? Does the fact that a graduate from 8 years ago impact your education today? No, it just happens to be what that person did. We don't know why they're doing it. I also can tell you that the majority of people graduating and the residency that they're doing is in primary care because that's where most of the residencies are. Now, do they go and then do a fellowship on top of that? Maybe, right? But it's a common argument to say, oh, most DO schools match into primary care. Guess what? Most MD students match into primary care too. And then they go on and do fellowships. So I can go down this list over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's exhausting because it doesn't matter what US News and World Reports says is the rankings. It doesn't matter for your education and your future career. One of the reasons we have schools competing for the best MCAT students, the best GPA students, is because of US News and World Reports right here. Student selectivity, median MCAT score. It's weighted 13% in the research schools, 20% in the primary care schools. First of all, I hate that they make a distinction between research schools and primary care schools. There's no such thing as a primary care school. That's neither here nor there. This is the median MCAT score of the 2024 entering class. The median scores were converted to a common 0 to 100 percentile scale for analytical use. The med schools get more points for the US News and World Reports rankings if their class has a higher MCAT score. They're chasing these rankings just like you guys are falling for it. Stop it. I'm going to stop talking about it. I get so frustrated with US News and World Reports. Woo. Anyway. Hoping to take an MCAT in February. I'm scared to check if registration is filled up. That's the most pre-med anxiety thing I've ever heard. Like, I need to register, but I'm scared to look because it might be full. You can't register unless you look. Crazy. Commonly overlooked aspect to med school apps, ideas for X Factor. There is no X Factor. Just get that out of your head. There's 60,000 students applying to medical school every year. It's all been done. Why core classes? Why calculus if I'm a PT? Because medical schools are a business and they want to sell you as much stuff as possible. And the gen ed requirements or core classes are a way to sell you more stuff versus just doing your major. I got my bachelor's at UCLA. I want to apply for HPSB. Pros and cons of HPSB. Cons, the government owns you. It looks like we're going into World War III pretty soon, maybe. You potentially can't do the specialty you want. Pros, it's pretty cool. I got to fly an F-16. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Air Force didn't let me twice. I lived apart from my wife for 2 years because I was stationed someplace and she was doing her residency. Military didn't care. So you have to be okay with military life. The goal of being in the military is to be ready to deploy. You just gotta be ready for it. Not that we fall for it, it's that we don't compete academically. It's that if we don't compete academically, you don't get in. Simple. I don't agree with you, Gio. Again, that has nothing to do with rankings either. So, I mean, you're conflating two things. Do you think my chances are over at a school I interviewed at and others from my interview day got A's? Not at all. Not at all. You have no idea why you haven't gotten that interview or that acceptance yet. Is UWorld an important study tool for the MCAT? For many people, it is. I think UWorld is great. A lot of students love it. We're working on something to hopefully disrupt that. What does someone do? What does someone do if someone has a lower GPA than accepted? Not sure I understand the question. Are you saying your GPA is lower than the average GPA for the school? Is it bad if most of my experiences are about a year old before applying? Yeah, it could be. It could be. Depends on which experiences and why. But that is a very common issue that we see on applications when a student is like, yeah, I finished, right? I finished all the things that you told me to do. That's not a good look. If you have a lower GPA than the school that you're applying to, it depends on how much lower. But it also, remember that those numbers don't mean that's exactly what they're looking for. I think that's one way that students use the MSAR inappropriately, is they go to the MSAR and look at the median GPA or median MCAT score and go, okay, that's what I need to be competitive at that school. That's not what that data is. That data just says, hey, this is last year's class. We don't know exactly what the school is looking for. We don't know what their cutoffs, all that other stuff. I feel like Dr. Gray is taking questions from another app. You guys are silly. I'm looking all over the place. I literally just had a question from somewhere else on. Advice on how to get a 4.0. Work really hard. Do you recommend any way to learn which schools gave more aid or scholarship last year? Nope. I would not play the scholarship game. Your goal is to get into medical school, figure out the financial stuff later. And I know it sounds very arrogant to say that, to be like, well, it's important. I need to figure out finances. Unfortunately, that's just not the game we play with medical school. Medical school is way too expensive. And if you're trying to do medical school on a budget, don't go to medical school. I mean, yeah, if you have 4 acceptances and you want to then pick the one that's the cheapest, fantastic. Get into medical school first. Former flight surgeon. What experience would you recommend as a former flight surgeon? What experience would you recommend for active military who are interested in going to medicine and want their clinical experience to be relevant? I'm not sure about the like want their clinical experience to be relevant. At the end of the day, clinical experience is there to help you be informed that you want to be a physician. That's the goal. I'm not sure what that question is. Can you explain the pre-match med school acceptance? So pre-match is a Texas thing. If you're a Texas resident, you are eligible for pre-matching and then going through the match. If you're applying to Texas and you're not a Texas applicant, then you get accepted like everyone else. They may still call it a pre-match, but you don't go through the match process as an out-of-state applicant. The pre-match is an acceptance. And then during the match, which happens in March, I think you submit in February, or happens in February. During the match, let's say you get 3 pre-match offers. During the match, you then rank 1, 2, 3, 4, all of the places that you've interviewed at, even the ones that you haven't received a pre-match offer yet. You rank based on your preference. Let's say you got 4 interviews, 3 pre-match acceptances. If that 4th school that did not offer you a pre-match acceptance, if that's your number 1 choice, rank that number 1. The school that you rank number 2, if you don't match at your number 1 choice, the school that you didn't get a pre-match acceptance at, if you don't match with them, you're guaranteed to get your acceptance to that 2nd school. And every other school on your list will drop off. But your number 1 choice will still be there so that you can potentially come off the wait list at your number 1 choice. And then your 2nd choice goes away. Should I go DO or take another gap year? Is the difference worth it? I want to do internal medicine. Guys, if you don't know my answer to this at this point, you don't listen to me enough, which maybe you've never heard of me before too, and that's okay. There's DO, MD, same. Do you think someone can take the MCAT with missing prereqs, or would you recommend taking them first and then the MCAT? Ideally, you have taken all of your prereqs for the MCAT. That's like going out and running a marathon without doing any training. You're like, I'll just try it and see. I'm an athlete. I can do it. Yeah, ideally, you go out and do it. Now, do students do it? Do some students do well? Yeah, but it's not the best advice. Do I have any recommendation for practicing the multiple mini interview? Treat it like real life. Treat it like real life. Every day you're going through a multiple mini interview. That's it. William Lynn, pre-med undergrad, who apparently is the expert on neurosurgery, says, yeah, but not the same for neurosurgery. DO-MD. MD is greater than DO. Do you know that, William Lynn? What is your data to support that? Everyone points to match data for this. And I think it's easy, right, to look at the match data and draw a conclusion that, oh, being a DO is bad for neurosurgery. But we can't make that direct conclusion. That is not what that data says. That data just says DOs match at a lower rate than their MD colleagues. Why is that? Is it just because they went to a DO school? We don't know. Hear me out. Go through this thought experiment with me. Okay. Why does someone go to a DO school to begin with? Why does someone go to a DO school to begin with? They often go to a DO school because they were told, oh, your MCAT score is too low for an MD program. Oh, your GPA is too low for an MD program. So they apply to a DO school. Let's take that at face value. They go to a DO program because their MCAT is not good enough, right? Let's take it at face value. I'm not saying that's why students should go to a DO school. I'm not saying that's why they do go to a DO school. Let's just take it at face value that they go to a DO school because their MCAT score is lower and they've struggled with the MCAT. Now they're in medical school and their struggles on the MCAT perpetuate into their board exams, into their tests in medical school. Maybe they had a lower GPA as well. Maybe they had a 3.4 GPA, 3.3 GPA, no really significant upward trends. Their B+ average in undergrad is now causing them to be a C+ student in med school. Now they're applying for residency. Guess what residency applications are? It's the medical school application all over again. What are your board scores? AKA, what's your MCAT score? What's your GPA? Or if you go to a pass-fail school, did you fail any classes? Right? You get into that world. It's the same struggles that you had as a pre-med student that are magnified because med school is harder. And now that student has a track record of struggling in classes, struggling on their board tests, and they say they want to be a neurosurgeon. That's not going to work out well for them because neurosurgery is super selective, aka competitive, and they only need to look at the best of the best. So it's not the fact that they went to a DO program. It's the fact that they continue to struggle as a student at that school. And so this is where it's super lazy to just say, oh, it's because they're a DO. No, it's because they didn't adjust the way that they needed to adjust to become the student that they needed to become to be competitive, even though they were at a DO program. And that's why I say all the time, it's not the degree, it's not the school, it's you. You are the determining factor in your competitiveness for residency. Explain breathing. What? Voluntary, involuntary. Can we just stop breathing? I don't know. Oh, man. 9 I've heard that many residency programs screen out DO schools for competitive specialties like neurosurgery. Is that true? Sure. I know of one program where I talked to the program director who explicitly stated, we don't look at DOs. Awesome. I'm not denying that there's bias. I'm denying that the bias is nationwide through every program that completely closes your doors. Go out and find a neurosurgeon who's a DO. You will find them. There goes your argument. Do you advise on kids already in med school struggling on exams? M1, yeah, actually, we do. We just have set some stuff up for that. Do you think med schools? Yeah, we're actually working with a student now who got kind of held back from their med school, and so he's working with our team. We have a team of tutors working with our team this year to restart med school next year. Have I ever met a PTA who went to med school? Lots of pre-meds do PTA stuff. I don't like physical therapy. Being a PT aide has great clinical experience unless you're in the hospital. Hold on. Broke everything. All right, hopefully that's working. Oh well, make it work. Yeah. Anyway. Let's see. Gotta go in a couple minutes. I didn't say I'll answer anything. Physical therapy assistant, not aide. Okay. Same. I'm a senior in high school, just applied. What would you recommend I do in college? Whatever you want. Bye, Tommy. Nice knowing you. Brady. Oh, you're specifically calling out a degree versus the activity. I don't know why you would get that degree, but if it works, it works. Go for it. Yeah, the degrees don't matter. The one thing I wouldn't do, go Gators. The one thing I wouldn't do is a nursing degree, and not that I have anything against nurses. It's the nursing majors and activities, they take up a lot of time, and it's usually not med school specific. So you just got to be careful there. Do I really have to report high school dual enrollment in MCAT? Yep. If I didn't receive college credit. If you didn't receive college credit, then no. The whole point of reporting it, the whole goal of reporting it is because it was college credit. Now, if you're saying you didn't have that college credit that you received typically from a community college, and it wasn't transferred to the actual school that you ended up going to, that doesn't matter. Dual enrollment means you took college level classes while in high school, again, typically through a community college. You have to report those classes on your application. And it messes with a lot of people. They're like, I didn't take those seriously. No. But thankfully, those are early on, and you'll be all right. Please answer my question. It's not what I do, my friend. They're asking a medical billing question. Not my forte. I used your resources advice when I applied. Just past step 1. Great job, Christine. Would you recommend a master's in physiology for someone with a B+ average science GPA? I probably need a little bit more information. What are your trends? What does that look like? B+ is 3.3. If that's pretty flat number, then potentially doing some more coursework would help. Online prereqs, I wouldn't focus on online prereqs. There are some schools that just don't like online prereqs, so I don't know, just general advice. But look at your school list. If your school list says, hey, we're fine, go ahead. I love you so much, Dr. Gray. When I get my doctorate one day, can you please sign it? I'm not signing your diploma. You're going to hang that up on a wall. You don't want my signature on it. But thank you. That's amazing. 4.0 in dual enrollment, 3.0 in undergrad. Oh, no. It's all right. There's always a chance to improve GPA. Now, unfortunately, it takes time, takes money, etc. Wazi writes, I'm not answering your question. I'm not an expert on medical billing. Thank you. Goodbye. All right. I'm a nursing student. Any advice? Is your goal to go to medical school? I would say stop being a nursing student. Yeah, obviously, that was a very flippant answer. Yeah, if your goal is to go to medical school, then a lot of people go the nursing route because they're like, oh, I can potentially work. It's a plan B, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, a lot of the classes that you take as a nursing student are nursing specific classes. And so when you're like, okay, I'm ready to apply to medical school, I took biochemistry. No, you took biochemistry for pre-nurses or for nursing majors. And it's not the same course rigor that med schools want and qualify as a prereq. So you just gotta be careful there. Devin got accepted to medical school last week. Your essay writing tips were super helpful. Congrats, Devin. What are your thoughts on an online post-bac Texas resident? Yeah, I think it just depends. Online stuff is, as I just mentioned a minute ago, can be risky because not every school accepts online. I think we're seeing a big change, but just be careful with that. What are my thoughts about Caribbean medical schools? They're a last resort. If you don't get into a U.S. school once, twice, 3 times, then yeah, last resort. I think too many people go there thinking it's a shortcut. It's not easier. It's harder. Classes are just as intense as U.S. schools. You gotta be careful. I see a lot of dodgy rich docs endorsing. Like who? who are the dodgy rich docs? Name and shame, or just name, and then I'll figure out if we need to shame them. There are plenty of docs that go to Caribbean schools and come out, match, practice, are amazing physicians. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't be a good doctor if you go to a Caribbean. I'm saying that there are many obstacles and barriers put in front of you. It's also harder to match with Caribbean medical schools. Absolutely. Data is pretty clear there. My doctor went to a Caribbean. Yeah. I would have no problem seeing a Caribbean med graduate as my doctor. All right, friends. I got to run to a meeting. This was fun. I'm usually here most Fridays, so come hang out, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.